In this video, I'm going to show you how to fold the 1 cube exercise tessellation designed by Alessandro Beber. I'll use a hexagon with a side length of 10.5 centimeters or 4 1/8 of an inch and a diameter of 21 centimeters or 8 1/4 of an inch. The finished model then has a side length of 5.25 centimeters or 2 1/16 of an inch and a diameter of 10.5 centimeters or 4 1/8 of an inch. Like most tessellations, it requires some time and patience to fold, so let's get started. We're going to start with the color side up to fold a grid with 16 divisions. So take edge to add the first crease and then always fold in half until you have 16 divisions, and you do that in all 3 directions. Once your 16 division grid is all done, we need to add some off-grid creases. There's various ways in which you can do that, but I like to use a ruler and a scoring tool, and you could use an empty pen for that, for example, to add them. First just scoring them in and then adding them as a stronger crease. So for this we're going to look at the grid and we're going to find the center of this edge, and then you will see there's a point of a triangle, and we're going to go 1 triangle, 2 triangles, 3 triangles and 4 triangles. And this point right here is the center of an off-grid triangle. So you will see that you have a hexagon that surrounds it, made up of 6 small triangles. And we're going to add a crease line that goes through the points of 2 adjoining triangles. And there you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the center, and now we have 1 crease line added here, and then we're going to add another one here and there so that we have a triangle that surrounds that point. So now you have a triangle right here. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to take that as a reference to add lots of additional creases. So you have a crease line through 2 triangles, and then you're going to skip 2 triangles and then add the next one. Do that to the right and to the left all the way through, and then the same in this direction and that direction. That's 1 direction done. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 crease lines right here. And now I'm going to rotate it so that this line is horizontal. And on the edge, you only need to add a crease line through 1 triangle. And then here through 2 triangles again until the end. So here we have 1, 2, 3 and half and another half. And then we can rotate so this crease line is horizontal and add more crease lines just as before. Now you will see that you have crease lines, and right next to this triangle you're going to add the crease lines to complete this triangle right here. So we can perhaps add a crease line right here. And then before rotating the paper, let's add the other ones, spacing as before. And then to add the 3rd crease line, we just rotate again and then add all of the crease lines in this direction. And continue doing that until you have all of these triangles done. So we have one right here, perhaps we're going to do the next one right here. Once you have all of those triangles added, you will have one in the center and then 6 surrounding it, and then another circle surrounding those, and some of them are cut off so they're only half a triangle, and be sure to add those too. Now we're going to add the rhombi that form this cube, this 3D cube, and for this we're going to orient ourselves on these triangles, especially the center one and the circle around it. So you will see that if you look at 3 of these triangles, we have a hexagon that is inside of it, and there's 2 triangles right here that are adjoining on an edge, and they're between 2 of these triangles from the circle, and that is where we're going to add the first crease, and then the second one basically is going to be a mirror on this axis and then also below. Then rotate and repeat the same step again. You will again see 2 full triangles that meet in an edge, and you need to add a crease line through the center. And add the third rhombus. So now you have the 3 rhombi, and now we can continue to fill this grid with these triangle scores, but leave these sections uncreased so that we have a nice flat finishing on that cube in the end. So here you can see we have 3 triangles creased, and one fits exactly in the center of it. So that basically when you look at this point, you have 2 triangles that meet on an edge, and that is going to be the next edge of a triangle. And just continue to fill the whole space, but as mentioned, do not crease in the center. Now, if you ever accidentally add a crease line, I did right here, don't worry about it too much. Just don't actually make that crease hard. When you now go along all of these triangles to make them nice and sharp. I'm going to flip the paper over to make mountain folds in the air, because that's how I like it best. But basically you simply want to strengthen all of the score lines you added, and you can make everything mountain folds except perhaps for the very central triangle, which should be a valley fold triangle. And this will keep you busy for a while. Don't forget to also add mountain folds to the 3 rhombi. Now we have our pre-creasing done, and we can start the collapse. For this, we're first going to collapse the 3 rhombi, and we're going to orient it so that we have a straight edge here and a rhombus lying like this, so that we have the long diagonal in the horizontal space and the short diagonal in the vertical space. Then we're going to take the very left corner and we're going to make a mountain fold along the grid that goes down to that corner of the hexagon, so that we can make that pop up. And while we're at it, let's do that with the next one too. So we're going to skip one corner and then go on to the next one, making a mountain fold until we hit a corner of a rhombus, and then skip one and add the third mountain fold until we hit a corner of a rhombus. Right there. Then we're always going to skip one grid line and then add a mountain fold again, and this will again meet a corner of a rhombus, and then we can basically squish these together so that the paper memorizes that shape a bit better. And then the same here, we have a mountain fold, we skip one, and then we add another mountain fold to meet that corner of the rhombus. And then we can again squish it together like that. And we can do that with the last one too, right there. Now we're going to push that triangle inside, trying to make those rhombi pop up. We're going to bring that valley fold in all the way to that corner of this rhombus, and the same on the other two. And we need to add another mountain fold, and we're going to go almost to this corner right here, just that the crease line is next to the one that goes to the point. So let's add that right there. And also here we have a corner. And there we have a corner. So now we have corners that are connected to the points right here, and then corners that are connected almost to the points of the hexagon. Now we can squeeze these together, and we need to fold them in one direction or the other, and let's go down like this, so that you're really squishing this down to get another valley fold. And on the third one, let's do the same thing, going clockwise, here, here, and right there. Now we're going to push that central off-grid triangle inside. Can you see that? Maybe from behind it's popped up in a mountain fold state, and the rest of the creases should pretty much fall in place. But let me show you. These are valley folds, and then we have valley folds going off right here, and mountain folds going up to the corner of the rhombus here, right here, and there. So now once we have that, we can collapse everything, because you can see here when we push this together, it can actually come together in the center. And I'm doing this as slowly as I can, just so that it's hopefully detailed enough. And here on these mountain folds, we're again going to go in a clockwise fashion, so that we're basically spinning this around. So I'm pushing this and letting the mountain folds twist clockwise. And if any of these come undone, just add them in again, like that, pushing it together. Stiff paper helps. I'm using relatively thin paper here, but even with kami, the action does work. And then you can see when you flatten it down, these three rhombi meet. And if you flip it over, you can see that triangle in the center, and then you always have these pleats, and here it's just a single pleat, whereas here there's double pleats, and again a single pleat and a double pleat and a single pleat and a double pleat. When you have that, just flatten it all down nicely with a bone folder or your thumbnail or whatever device you like using. And now the next phase of folding this 1 cube exercise starts, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see the details more nicely. Now let's look at this model. We have mountain folds that go to a corner of the hexagon and mountain folds that do not. Let's concentrate on a section where it does not meet the corner. If we open up these layers just slightly right here, you can see that we have a triangle right here. And we're going to start collapsing that, and then we need to continue doing that, and the model will not lie flat for quite a while. So don't try to flatten it just now, and you will be fine. So first what we're going to do is we're going to make this a bit open so that we have no mountain fold here anymore. And then you can see this triangle has grid lines that go off these 2 points up here. And we're going to make those into mountain folds, like this. And then we also want all of these to be mountain folds throughout. Can you see that? So that now we have mountain folds here, and basically there too, so that it's nicely popped up. And when we have that, we want to push this point so that it's really down like that. And then when you have that, you can see that this sort of collapses down, but there's extra paper in this space. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on that so that we can flatten it down a bit more. So you will see a triangle right here, and to flatten this area down, this needs to be a valley fold. And then these 2 crease lines will again be mountain folds, and to achieve that, let's add a mountain fold along the grid from this point of the triangle. So push this down, add the mountain fold, like that. And now you can see this is starting to collapse a little more. And let's do that on the other side too. Open up this paper right here. And let's try not to open it too much so that we don't get confused. But here you can again see a triangle, and we'll have a valley fold right here, and then 2 mountain folds along the 2 other edges of the triangle, and then along the grid a mountain fold. And seen from behind, you can see this kind of structure appearing of triangle twists that are kind of hidden a bit. And in the last step of the model, we actually have to unhide them. So now that we have that, we're just going to move on to the next corner right here, where there is no mountain fold to the corner, but right next to it, and repeat the step. Open this up, add the mountain folds, push this in, and this point of that triangle needs to go down like that, so that you can basically push this underneath. And then next to it we have these triangles right here, which have a valley fold and then 2 mountain folds. And at the beginning it feels like you're doing nothing, but indeed you are really bringing the paper to the shape that you need for the collapse. And you just need to be patient for a little while until you can actually really see what you've been doing. And here's the last one of this kind, the mountain folds, and bringing this triangle into a 3D shape to then push down this point like that, to bring it into this shape again, and then the adjoining triangles to make the collapse go a bit farther. And here too, pushing that paper inside to get these triangles to appear. And then you have something that's starting to look like this. You can see it's collapsed quite nicely. And here you can see it's still a bit untidy. So always check from the back. It's much easier to look whether you're working precisely or not from the reverse of the model. Like that. Now, once you're here, you can continue with the next triangles. So you can see that, for example, right here on this top triangle that we started with, we have another one right here. And we can collapse that. And we're going to add a valley fold and then 2 mountain folds. Pushing this together like this. And like that. You see that? And from the back you can see you're adding this valley fold from the color side, but mountain fold from the white side right there. And then you need to continue with the next one and so on, and just go on, always having, like, from the point you have a valley fold and then 2 mountain folds. And sometimes you need to pay attention, and I'll show you when that happens for me, when you actually need to be more careful. Adding another one right here. Just going around in a circular fashion is what works best for me. So here you can see you have a point, and you need to decide, does it need to be up or down? Well, if you see that you have a valley fold here, then this should be a mountain fold as well as that one. So if this is a mountain fold, then this point needs to go underneath. So you know you need to push this down so that it hides underneath this mountain fold. And if you follow that rule, I find it's relatively easy to determine whether you need to go up or down. Just always remember there's 1 valley fold on each triangle and 2 mountain folds. And I always like to take a triangle and then work on the triangle above it, so that I always start with the valley fold, which makes the triangle kind of push underneath the one right here. So here again you can see there's a point right here. We have a mountain fold right here, and we have a mountain fold right here. So what we need to do is make this one a valley fold and that one a mountain fold like that, so that this point pushes underneath. So while it may feel that you're getting nowhere, can you see here? We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triangles that look slightly collapsed. And you can't really go much further than this, and then you just need to move on to the next section and continue doing that until you have your ring completed. Here again you notice there's a point right here, but we have a valley fold here, so this needs to be a mountain fold, so this point needs to go underneath again. So if you ever wonder, apply that rule and it should work out fine in that case. Just going around, and some of them will collapse almost automatically, and for some you need to do a little more work. It just depends on how much of the shape of the paper already pushes the paper into the place that you want it to. And here again you can see we have our 5 triangles, so we only need to complete the last section, which is almost done in any case, just because of all the work we've done already. You can see your 5 triangles here, and 5 triangles here, and 5 triangles here, and of course some of them are shared. And looking at it from the reverse, this is what you have right now. You can see all of these sections right here. Perhaps to make this one look more similar, let's add a more obvious mountain fold right there. here and here and here. And now we can continue with the next string. So again, just pick one that you like. I always prefer to add a direction where we have the horizontal creases rather than when you twist it around here, you have these points. So I prefer to work in this direction. I find it easier, although the other one might be one that works best for you. So here we're again pushing the paper down, and underneath that point right here, which is up, so this goes down, and then these two mountain folds need to be collapsed. Like this. And you can push this one down and continue with the next one. So let's just pause for a moment here. And as you can see, if I push this together, you can see the 5 triangles we had before, but now you also have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right here. When you push them together, you can see what it's going to look like in the collapsed state, but you'll only collapse it down once you've done them on the other sections too. And here you can see I've already done some work, and if we push them together right here, perhaps this one's not quite as prominent as I need it yet. Here you can see we need this to be a mountain fold, so we need to push this down again, just following our rule. There we go. And then you can again see those triangles right there. And of course you also need them right here. Just pushing this into place to reveal all of those triangles. Ensuring that you have mountain folds going off the tips, it makes it a bit easier. And this one is actually kind of for the last ring. So when you have that, let's flip this around, and you can see some imprecisions here. You can just make this a bit neater like this from the back, and it will also strengthen the creases so that the model has a nicer 3D shape for the collapse. Just so that you get a nice finish on the model and you don't have any crumbling of paper, especially in the tips. So once you have that, you can then start pushing this paper down from the center to the outside, and because the paper is in the right shape, especially in the center, you should be able to flatten it down. And as you come to the edges, some of the triangles aren't done yet, and you cannot flatten those sections yet. And you will notice that because you only want to go along existing crease lines and not add any new crease lines. So I'm just pushing these down so that I know where I need to do more work. Here you can see there's something not quite right, so I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to see that we have the off-grid triangle right here, and we need to push this corner down because this is already a valley fold. And it's not that important actually, because I mean this one actually should go down too, like that, so that you have 2 mountain folds right here. So you can always flip them around as you go along with all of them. Here you can see these are in the nice shape already. And now let's just take care of the edge, which I find is a bit harder because you don't have complete triangles. So if you're ever uncertain, just unfold the paper a little, and then you'll notice you have a bunch of crease lines right here, but you always want to have a 60-degree angle, so you know you need to go along this fold right here to get that 60-degree angle. The same here, and this one needs to go behind like that. And then you just work your way around. I'm going to go in this direction, and here you have these 2 which form a corner of a triangle like that. And then here, if you open up the paper, you see that you have a tip right here. So this one needs to go down to be covered by that partial triangle. And here this one needs to go down too. And you just need to work your way around it and see which direction each point needs to go. It's definitely a bit tricky, but I hope you enjoy the challenge. And if you ever do need a break, just take a break and then come back to the tessellation. Paper is patient and it will wait for you to re-energize and feel up to looking at what's happening again. Maybe I'm going to put this to the top, like that. We're going to push all of these corners to the other side so that we reveal triangle twists here. So it's not super important that all of these are oriented the same way, but it does help to kind of follow a specific scheme so that you can flatten it all down and you kind of know where you want to get. And if you don't do that, I think it's easier to get confused, basically. And this model is quite complex, even though it's just the one cube exercise, and the other project that Alessandro Beber has in his book Origami New Worlds. This is definitely something quite elaborate already when you're learning the technique, which is also, of course, why he included it, so that you really get a sense of what you need to do on a simpler project, not a simple one, but a simpler one, so that you can then perhaps go on to the really elaborate ones where you're going to spend many, many hours making something truly amazing. So we're slowly getting there. The border is almost done. And when you have the model in a flat shape, you can put it underneath some books for a while so that it flattens down and take a break. Or if you're impatient like me, I'm going to take out an iron actually and then just very quickly go over it so that the paper is nice and flat for the next step, which is going to complete the model, and which I find much easier when the model is flattened down really nicely. So there we go, the border is basically done. Let's turn it around so that you can see what we have. I don't think I have it completely symmetrical. So for example, you can see a corner right here, so something is not completely collapsed here, which, as I mentioned, it's not that bad because you're going to figure it out in a second in any case. But I do like to be precise even in the steps in between. So there you go. Some of them are definitely not quite in the right direction, but we're going to take care of that in the next step. So now I'm just going to take out my iron and then carefully go over it. This is not even heated, but I think it's already hot enough for what I need, which is basically just flattening it down, and the heat helps secure it without me having to add too much pressure. And I'm just going a little bit at a time so that I don't add new creases while doing this. And then just go over once, and then we have a nice flat model without having to wait. Now you will see that we have that nice 3D cube already, but we have all of these surrounding triangles. And to get to this state right here, you will see that these corners right here are hidden, which makes the background less prominent and really lets that cube stand out. So for this, we're going to push all of these corners to the other side. So for example, if we look at this corner right here, this is just a random one, we can push it, and I'm going to show you from the other side. If I put my finger here, if I push it, you can see that it is kind of this space that's going to come forward. So open the paper up a little bit, perhaps like this, and then push it, push it, push it, until that corner plops to the other side, like that. And then you will see that you have these two triangle twists. And you want this to be a valley fold and these two mountain folds, so that you can really see that these are indeed two triangle twists. So now you have this, whereas before you had this structure right here where you have a mountain fold. This has to be a valley fold. And then you go around and you do it to all of these corners, but not this one right here where you can see this is kind of next to the cube, and this one right here, and that one right here. And you can recognize them because they're kind of differently shaped. And that's just because of the angles that, meet right there. It's a slightly different structure. So let's see, where did we add our first one? It's easier to see from this side, right here. And then let's just continue there, opening the paper, pushing it to the other side, making this mountain fold into a valley fold, to then have these two triangle twists exposed, pushing them down like this, and right here. And then just continue working your way all the way through. For example, you could choose this one as the next one. And so on. So now you can see we have collapsed all of these points from the inner circle, and now we can continue with the outer circle. If you have any imprecision in your folds, just fix them as you go along. It happens even to me, as you can see. And when you believe you're done, you can first check whether you have triangle twists all around. And for me, that looks fine. And then you can also check that on the border, you always basically have these hexagons. So here you can see a part of the hexagon is not hidden. So I need to take the layer underneath and pop it out so that this corner is cut off, or it's covered by that other layer, just so that you get a nice symmetry. And also on these corners, right here, just always taking out that layer to cover it up and get that hexagon background all the way around. And here it's already nicely done, but here again some sections of paper need to be brought to the top. Like that. Now, if you work really precisely, you will not have any of these holes, but the model will be closed very tightly like here. And you know, with practice you can achieve that, and Alessandro really does. So now, believe it or not, your 1 cube exercise, designed by Alessandro Beber, is all done. And it actually is a practice piece from Alessandro's book Origami New Worlds, and in my opinion a great model to fold before attempting one of the even more elaborate and absolutely stunning designs. Now, the book contains 25 designs and is available both as a PDF or a printed book. And Alessandro made accompanying videos to show different techniques. I showed one technique which works nicely for me, but he actually made the effort of showing you different ways so you can pick which method works best for you. So if you like tessellations and this model, his book is a superb addition to your origami library. Plus, you can admire more of Alessandro's work in his Flickr stream. And by the way, this is the model from the back, and that looks quite stunning too. Now, if you liked this video, do let me know by giving it a thumbs up, commenting below and sharing it with others. Now, how about you explore my playlist of other tessellation tutorials? Or, especially if you're just getting started, check out my videos on tessellation basics. Finally, subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss my next videos. I hope to see you around, and as always, happy folding!